My own personal hair loss story started when I was 2 years old. I got scalded by a boiling hot kettle. The water landed directly on my scalp and shock set in. When that happens, it becomes a life-threatening issue. So I was taken to intensive care where I had to stay for 2 weeks. But I think that began a bit of a journey for me because the severity of the burn took all my skin away and I was left with red raw flesh. And it was a case really of just seeing what was going to happen. Will the skin come back? It did. What didn't come back was the hair, and what it left me was a gaping wound on the top of my scalp like so, with hair all around here. So my mum and dad sought the best advice from the doctors of the day, and they said, well, for him to just fit in as a normal 4-year-old boy, he has to wear a hairpiece. And I wore a hairpiece from 4 years old till I was 22. I have to say, really, as a young lad, it didn't bother me because it was all I knew. It never stopped me doing anything, and I had a happy childhood. I think the time it started to make me think was when I got to about 14 years old. And I always thought, well, why will a girl want to be interested in me? So I was always quiet and a little bit reserved, and those feelings of thinking that I would never be accepted in that way, it got me down a little bit then. So when I was about 23, I started to look at other options on what was available. And I went to see a hair transplant surgeon, but the size of the burn, he said, wouldn't be able to be completed with just a hair transplant on its own. So he recommended that I go and have a scalp reduction. And it did help. What happens with skin though is that it will naturally stretch back to a certain degree. So the skin from coming from that did go back to about there, but it didn't go back to the full size. Now, what I've been told is that I'm the first burns victim in the world to have a hair transplant on burnt skin. And the hair transplant surgeon, he was very honest, he was very open about this, and he says, look, we just don't know if this is going to work, but I'm interested, I want to give it a go. And I have to say that the results was probably what he really thought it would be, and that was a 50-60% hair ratio that I got back. And what it was able to let me do was finally get rid of that hair system that I'd been wearing for 18 years. So I had to have a look at then of what the next option was. And I started to use a concealer which you spray over the top of your scalp, and it gives the illusion of thickness of hair. The downside of using any hair concealer though is that you're always looking over at the weather to see if it's going to rain, because if it does, black dye is going to come running down your face. But what started to happen over that period of time was I started to lose my own natural hair. So from spraying in only a small area back in 1994, going on to 2003, I was spraying in more areas, spending more time in the bathroom. And I don't think anybody was, but I actually felt the whole world was just looking at me and laughing at me going, look at the state of that guy's hair. And I just thought, this can't carry on. I'm going to have to just shave what hair I've got, and I'm going to have to be bald, but I've also got scars at the back of my head. The place where I used to get my hair styled, it was a hairdresser there, and he was the one who told me about scalp micropigmentation. And I thought, yeah, this is something, I want this done. So I went along to the Scalp MicroPigmentation clinic, and I met Paul Clark there, and we had a real good chat. He looked at my head and he just says, you're going to be fine, we're going to look after you. So in 2010, I finally had my first SMP procedure, and I've had to have 5 procedures since then. That's due mainly because of the severity of my hair loss due to the burn, and also because of the scars that I've had through scalp reductions and hair transplants. And it's total liberation. But when I finished my final SMP procedure, I was very fortunate to be offered a chance to work in the industry. And I thought, I want to help people. I've been there, I know what it's like, I've got the empathy, I want to change people's lives as well. I've had hairpiece, I've had a hair transplant, I've done the hair concealers, I've done them all. But I can honestly say to people, look, I've had them, I understand how you feel. I truly believe that there's nowhere in the world you will get a better result for scalp micropigmentation than the Brandwood Clinic. I've got 2 children now and I play with them, we go out swimming, I wear hats and I go out in the rain and my life's totally changed for the best.